Hey guys, welcome back and happy new year. Today I am doing a 2024 seed haul and I'm also starting the very first seeds for the year. I always start onion seeds around this time of year and I have a stack of seeds to go through in today's haul. So these are not all the seeds I will be using for the year, but I did really need to stock up on a good amount. Last year I made it a goal to really go through my stash to kind of use up things that I wasn't using and kind of use, get rid of the things I had duplicates of, and I really depleted everything I had. So this year I really got to focus in on things I've loved in the past and reorder those, and then also just dabble in just a handful of new things. I don't have all of the room when it comes to my garden, but I do have a few areas that I am going to do things a little differently. I'm still kind of trying to finalize my last little bit of garden plans, and we'll be going over that here in the next few weeks. But I did go ahead and order probably the bulk majority of what I will order for 2024. I'll probably put in another order sometime in the summer. I might order a thing here and there, but this should probably be majority of what I will be planting outside of what I already have. So again, this isn't everything I will be planting, but there are going to be some fun things in here. So I have a handful of different places I ordered from this year. So last year, I think the bulk of everything I used was Johnny's Botanical Interest and Renee's Garden, which I am doing those three again this year. But this year I'm actually throwing in a new one, which was High Mowing Organic Seeds, which we will just go ahead and start with them. And the reason why I ended up ordering from them is, you guys may remember a few videos ago I mentioned how the onion variety that I grew last year called Calibra, it's an intermediate day onion, and it worked really well for me. It's very good in storage. It's about 6 to 8 months on average, and I finally just used the last one. I did have a handful of them go soft, but that is almost a full 6 to 7 months there of storage. So I really liked the onion variety. I had really good luck with it, and last year I ordered from Johnny's and they were completely sold out. I did email Johnny's and they said they weren't going to get more, I think, until March or April, and that's just too late because today is the day I actually start onion seeds. So let's see what I actually ordered from High Mowing Organic Seeds. So I did order 2 packs of the Calibra onions. These came in 100 seeds per pack, and I'm planning on planting out about 150 to 200 onions in the garden. So I'm honestly just going to probably start all of these seeds just in case some of them don't pop up. Then another thing, I couldn't get my hands on any pelleted carrot seed, and that was one thing I really loved last year. So I got the Noval carrot pelleted seed for this year, and then this one is a new one, and I'm really excited about this. So a poblano pepper. This is the Enchero poblano hot pepper. I have never grown poblanos, but we do love to have a stuffed poblano pepper from time to time. So I'm actually really excited to add that to the garden. And then one of my plans this year is to not really incorporate many bush beans, but to incorporate more pole beans when it comes to like green beans. So I believe you pronounce this Shaleas. Not quite sure, but this is a pole bean variety, and it is supposed to be a pretty prolific producer, as it says right here on the top. So I really wanted to give this one a try. I also have some Blue Lake F1, so it's a hybrid of the Blue Lake bush for a pole variety that I will also be planting as well. But that was all I got from High Mowing. Yeah, again, this is my first year ordering from them, but they had a few things I was really excited about, and I was just really happy that they had my Calibra onions because I was very happy with that variety last year. So that is what we got from them. All right, next up, let's jump to Botanical Interest. Let's open a box here. So first and foremost, we have a little thank you packet. Some seed companies will give you little thank you seed packets. I planted a whole row of this in the fall, and I've still been picking at it to give it to the chickens and such, and it's been a really good little seed variety. Another one I am growing that I tried last year that did very well for me is the Bellstar broccoli. I always had issues with my broccoli in the past bolting, and I didn't have that issue with this in the spring. So I did want to find an area to plant a little bit of broccoli in the spring and also the fall. So next one is one I'm so excited about. So I've had really good luck with cantaloupe over the last few years, and I love cantaloupe, but a melon I have loved more than cantaloupe growing up was honeydew. And I don't know why I haven't even thought of growing honeydew, but this year I was like, I need to get honeydew and have honeydew and cantaloupe going, because melons have done really well for me. I wasn't the biggest fan of doing watermelon last year. I did the sugar baby watermelon, and until I get more room, I don't know if I'm necessarily going to play with watermelon again, but I am excited about trying some honeydew. Very excited about some honeydew. So, and I got this to have, this next one here, I got to have just in my seed container. This is one that is very hard for me to grow, which is your everyday basic zucchini. So where I live, I have an issue with squash vine borer. They attack most squash like vines, and they're just like these milly type of worms, and you can go through and pick them out. And last year I did do that and had a little bit of success, but not that much success. So I have these. I've had good luck in the past when I have covered them, but it is one of those plants I can almost guarantee I'm going to have vine borer no matter what I do or what I try. That is one reason why, if you're looking for a squash variety that is vine borer resistant, there's a winter squash variety that I've grown in the past called honey nut, and there's also a few others that I haven't tried. I do like the honey nut. But yeah, these everyday summer squashes are very hard for me to grow here. So they do say to plant them when it comes to like midsummer, after like the vine borer has passed. But honestly, I've noticed that the vine borer just doesn't really go away, and you just kind of have to be on top of it. But I do have these because I think it would be really nice for me to put up a small little hoop tunnel with insect netting, because I have done that in the past in that type of area, and try to plant some of these after my garlic comes out, because that would be a really good location for these. So this is one of those that we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to have room for it though come midsummer, so I wanted to have it on hand just in case. Next up, I got your everyday basic Roma tomatoes. So I love growing determinate paste tomatoes. I grow pretty much all paste tomatoes minus like one cherry tomato, because I use all of my tomatoes for tomato products such as like tomato sauce, and also like salsa and like diced tomatoes and stuff like that. They're a little less watery and have a little bit more just meat to them, so they're really good for sauce making. So I'm trying to go back to the roots. This was what I grew my very first handful of years. It was your everyday basic Roma, so I wanted to get a pack of that. So another one though, I did go ahead and reorder, which I was not sure about toward the end of this last year, but it did produce for me really well, was the Supremo tomato. So I wanted to have a combination of the two, maybe just compare them. They are a Roma variety as well, but these ones really put on some really uniform big Roma tomatoes. They were beautiful. They made some really good tomato products for me, so I really want to try them again. I feel like they got knocked out a little early, but I honestly feel like these might just be a 100% like true determinate, where they put on majority of their fruit. I've noticed that some determinates act kind of like a determinate, but they don't act like a determinate. They almost act like an indeterminate. And if you don't know the differences, there's differences between like a bush and a pole variety, just like I kind of mentioned with the green beans. It's same with tomatoes. You can have an indeterminate tomato plant that will just continue to keep growing throughout the season. Then you have a determinate plant that kind of grows to a certain height, puts on all of its fruit, and kind of ripens all at once. But in my experience with most determinate plants, they continue to grow and they continue to put on fruit. But these Supremos last year almost like acted like a determinant where people told me in the past where, yeah, it would just kind of put on a lot of its fruit and then it didn't really put on more. These are supposed to even set, so right up top here, I decided, I was like, all right, I'll go ahead and give them a second chance because it says they will set even in the heat. Apparently these have really good heat resistibility. So I am planting my tomatoes in a little bit more of a sunny area compared to another area, and I think that's going to make a big difference. So we're going to try to give them a secondary chance. Next up, I did just go ahead and get a few chamomile seeds just in case. I did want to start a few of these plants and potentially plant them out in the front of my house. So I do have this area in the front of my house that I'm thinking I'm going to make either more of a perennial space or more of a tea garden. And obviously chamomile, the moment you plant it, it kind of just stays around in your garden. I didn't have to plant it last year and I got so much chamomile. So I do have this because I do want to start a few plants and maybe create more of like a tea perennial garden. I have some rosemary. So last year I was really upset because I had rosemary that was like 2 or 3 years old at that point, and we got so cold last December, it knocked out all of my rosemary, all of my lavender, and majority of my hyssop. So a lot of my perennial flowers I've had in the garden for a while just kind of disappeared, and it took the rosemary with it. So I need to replant some rosemary. And then this one's a new one for me. I randomly saw a picture of this, and in the past, like, I've liked cosmos, but I didn't really like love them, but I love how like whimsical they are. So I'm gonna give them another chance, but this is called the Bright Lights Blend Cosmos. It was these bright orange and yellow colors. I think these will just be really pretty in the garden to add another flower outside of a zinnia. I thought these would go really well with the Queen Orangey Lime that I grew last year. I have a bunch of those seeds saved. And yeah, that's it for botanical interest. So next up we have Renee's garden. Let's see what we got. First and foremost, we have some collards. I wanted to have some collards because they are great just to throw to the chickens. And I thought I'd make some green powder using like collards and spinach and a few other things. My husband really likes collards. I wanted to play around with using them as wraps and stuff like that. I've grown collards once, didn't have the best luck with it. So I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna try again with the collards. Then I did need to get some jalapeno seeds this year. So you guys may, I've got this question in the past. So I've grown a lot of pepper varieties and tomato varieties, and I don't really save those seeds often. It's mostly just because I worry about cross-pollination because I have them so close together that unless I really isolate the blooms, I worry about all of those things kind of crossing. In the past, I've saved like my melon seeds and my loofah seeds and my sunflower seeds and stuff like that because I typically don't have like, well, I guess I have multiple sunflowers, actually. I don't know. I really want to get better about seed saving this year, but I digress. Classic jalapenos. I just wanted some everyday classic jalapenos. So I chose classic jalapenos. I needed some jalapenos. And then I also went ahead and got my Hungarian Magyar. So these I use for paprika peppers. These are my paprika variety that I dry all of my peppers with. This will be is it my 4th or 5th year growing? I don't know. I'm losing track at this point. This is my 7th year garden at this point, but I love these peppers. They performed really well with me. They are a spice that I have in my cabinet every day. And if you use paprika in your garden, definitely get your hands on this one. I love it. So I did want to get one other tomato variety. So this is another Roma tomato, but it's called Inca Jules, and I really just liked it. It's supposed to be more of a heavy, extra heavy yields that kind of grow in a 3-foot space. These are really good for different pots. So I really want to get even more pots and grow bags throughout the garden this year and just completely maximize my space without overcrowding things. And I thought this would be really, really good to be able to throw some more container tomatoes. So I'm excited about trying that one. And then, ooh, I'm actually really excited about this next one. So me and my husband love drinking tea. We are big tea drinkers, and one tea we love to drink is hibiscus. So this hibiscus variety, this Zinger hibiscus. It is, I'm not even going to try to pronounce like the actual like family name. There's all different kinds of hibiscus out there, but this is the one you use for tea. So I'm really, really excited about attempting to grow this year. And then I got some more oregano seeds. So I do have one oregano plant that's still trucking outside, but I want to add a few more. For some reason, I tend to go through a lot of my oregano. So I want to have more pockets of oregano throughout the garden. And then I didn't order these with this order. These came toward the end of the year, but these are new varieties I've never grown from Renee's garden that I got toward the end of like fall that I'm going to be planting. So I wanted to add these because I'm really, really excited about this next one too. So I'm going to be planting this one out probably in the next like 6 to 8 weeks outside. So this is the Hungarian bread seed poppy. Last year I grew poppies and I honestly didn't realize that there are culinary poppy seeds for poppy seed muffins and things like that. And I just grew like an everyday heirloom poppy. So I really wanted to have a bread seed poppy. Like I really want to save these poppy seeds and use them for culinary purposes. So I'm very, very excited about this one. I also just have some everyday green onions, scallions that I want to plant out, but I also have this purple moon kale. And then this one is really cool looking. It's called Flashy Troutback. It is an heirloom cutting lettuce. So that looks pretty cool. Excited about that one as well. Last one, we have Johnny's. So from Johnny's, we ended up getting, oh, which one is this? Okay, so I got a different cayenne variety this year. I did not really like the cayenne variety I grew last year. It was very thin walled. This one is supposed to be a little bit thicker, so I'm very excited about that. That was one thing I really wanted to look for because I like having a thin, like skinned cayenne that dries out really easily, but I like being able to cut them easily. And the variety I had last year was so thin, it was really hard to de-seed and I didn't really like that. So this one is supposed to be a little bit thicker walled. So this is called the Red Ember. It is a cayenne pepper. So very excited about that one. And then we got a one here that I have grown for many years, which is the Pink Bumblebee Cherry Tomato. I love these cherry tomatoes. They are so flavorful and they have a really deep red color and they've always done really well for me, so I really like them. This next one, ooh, I'm so excited about this next one. So you guys know those little like bags of these small little sweet peppers that are yellow, orange, and red, and they're just like yummy snacking peppers? I got a variety mix of that this year. So this is a new one for Johnny's this year. It's called the Lunchbox Pepper Mix, which they also have just like your red, your orange, and your yellow, but this is supposed to be a mix. Very hyped about this one. I hope it does well. I've had better luck with hot peppers than I've had with sweet peppers over the last handful of years. Ooh. So I don't really know exactly where I'm going to put this one, but there's always that one seed that just ends up in your little seed haul and you're just like, don't know what I'm going to do with that. I don't know if I have room with that, but I'm really excited to try to grow snapdragons. I love cut flowers, and this is one called the Potomac Early, a sunrise mix snapdragon, and this just looked really pretty. So I kind of want to find a nice little spot for this one. This was one that was like an impulse buy. Okay, and then last but not least, I have the Elegance Purple Lavender, and I chose that. I have lavender still, but I went ahead and chose this variety because this is supposed to be a first bloom lavender, so a first bloom year. Most of the time lavender blooms in its second year, but this is supposed to bloom year one. So I really hope this does well with me, which actually I bet I'm gonna have to start these in like probably the end of January. That's the one thing I like, is getting my hands on all of my seeds. That way I can really go through like all of my start dates and really figure out when I am starting seeds, like per my date, and have like a whole schedule for seed starting. So I really like to get most of my seeds out of the way and kind of figure all that out. But this Elegance lavender I'm also very excited about. But that is kind of the haul for today. I have a lot of other things, but these are all things I'm really excited about. I was really kind of going back and forth all of December trying to figure out what did I really want to grow, and there's still a few things I'm trying to fully decide on. I don't know if I want to grow regular potatoes or sweet potatoes quite yet. That's a decision I need to make like as soon as possible. And there's one other thing too I'm kind of teetering on, but again, I really need to make that decision sooner or later because I need to figure out my game plan for those. But anyway, so let's see. Let's get our Calibra seeds out here. And I have a bunch of soil blocks I'm going to start. So I have grown onions a few different ways over the years. I have done the way where you pretty much just sprinkle the seeds and you allow them to sprout, and then you pull them apart when you go to plant them, which it worked for me, but I almost feel like when you disturb the roots that much, it just affects the plants so much. So last year what I did was every soil block I planted out 3 or 4 seeds, and I still pulled them apart, but I didn't have them overcrowded, and that allowed me to still pull them apart. But this year I'm going to get even pickier about it. So I really want to have a soil block per seed, which if you don't know what a soil block, we'll go over that here in a second, but I think that will allow everything to just do really well inside, and then that way when I go to plant it out, I'm not pulling apart any seedlings. I'm just going to be able to plop it in a hole, and those roots aren't going to be disturbed, and I think that will just overall be just a game changer thing when it comes to the onions. So I was able to have really good success with these. I had a lot of baseball to softball size onions, so I'm hoping that will be the case again. Onions are a very tricky thing. At least in my opinion, they've been one of the trickiest things I've ever tried to grow. All right, so let me get everything together here. Let me clean up all of my seeds. I need to get all of my seeds organized. So yeah, stay tuned over the next few weeks because we're going to be going over garden plans, my tips for garden planning. You really don't need to be this ahead of the game yet. The only reason I'm even getting seeds at this point is because I really needed to get my onion seeds, and I figured why not go ahead and try to get everything I possibly need. I like to get a lot on hand. So this is my soil blocker, and you can see it makes these, what, about 2" by 2" squares here, and it's a great noise, but yeah, you make these little blocks and they pump out these little soils. So I like this for certain options. You will see that as I seed start things a few different ways. I really like doing soil blocks for a handful of things, but then I also like using 3 1/4 or 3 1/2" like little nursery pots. Really like that size as well for a handful of things. So we will also be going over that over the next few weeks, like everything I use for seed starting, garden planning. Like I'm so excited. January is one of my favorite months because you really get to visualize and kind of just figure out what you want to do. So when it comes to seed starting, I like to have just a nice little bin here because when it comes to soil blocking in particular, I like to really get the soil a little bit more moist than I would if I was just packing it into a nursery pot. It really helps the soil kind of cling together and create a block, because when you compact it like that, you can just grab it and plop it in. So that's going to be the nice thing when I go to planting. I'm not going to have to clean anything extra as well. So I have the tub here, I have some organic potting soil, and then I also have some worm castings I'm also going to add in, and I'm going to add some water to this and get it to a good consistency and make soil blocks. So I also got my trays ready to go. So I really like having these mesh trays from Bootstrap Farmer on top of like your everyday 10 like 20 tray. This really allows a soil block to sit nicely on top, and then you're also not having your soil block sit in water and get soggy or anything like that. This allows the water to kind of pass through. So I really like having these mesh trays when it comes to all soil blocking. So what I'm going to do is put some of this soil, probably about like half the bag or so, and then I'm going to add a little bit of the worm castings and then get the soil to the moisture consistency I want. I'll show you guys, like, kind of want it to be a little bit more soupy for this, and then I'm just going to start making some soil blocks. I've always just used organic potting soil when it comes to seed starting. You will see people will use different seed starting mixes and things like that. I've always found really good luck with just everyday potting soil. I'm just going to add about like half a cup to a cup's worth. Nothing crazy. I just want to mix it in to kind of help feed the onion and stuff during its time downstairs. Onions are pretty heavy feeders. I have a pitcher of water here, and I'm going to add about half of it at first and kind of mix that in. Actually, I think that might be perfect. See how when I squeeze it, I can kind of get some liquid out of it and it clumps together really nicely? That's exactly what you want. So got that on the first try. So I like to just press the soil blocker down and kind of wiggle it. Once I kind of get that first little bit, I will kind of just go in, press the soil down a bit. See how that one really didn't have much air bubbles, but these ones did. I think that always really helps when it comes. You can see how inconsistent those really filled up. So after doing that and kind of pressing in those corners as well, I will go back through and kind of just do that same motion where I'm pressing the soil block down, wiggling it, and then I will take my hand tool at this point, kind of scrape off some of that extra soil, press all of that through again one more time. See if I maybe need to do that one more time somewhere. I think those two, I'll just kind of grab a little bit more soil and kind of press that in. Now at this point, when those soil blocks are ready to go, I will then release the blocks. And there you go. You have your very own soil blocks. You can see that this can be a little bit time consuming right now, but it saves you a lot of time later when it comes to like planting and cleanup. If you're new to growing onions, there's a few things you want to consider when choosing a variety. So earlier when I was talking about the Calibra onion being an intermediate day onion, that is the range it is when it comes to daylight for the onion to bulb. So there's long day, short day, and intermediate day. And I believe it's the further north you go, it's long day. I'm kind of in that middle belt of America. So I'm right in the middle, intermediate day, and then south is short day. So that will kind of just determine your daylight hours when it comes to summer when your onion is bulbing. And that is really important when you're choosing a variety. Another thing that I think is really important when you're choosing a variety is storage again. So that is one reason why I chose the Calibra. When it comes to intermediate day onions, I find it really hard to find storage varieties of onions. They're more in, I believe, the longer and shorter day categories. So it's just one of those where when you're looking up varieties and if you're wanting to have a storage onion, there are a lot of varieties out there that are really only about 3 to 4 months. So that is something to consider. Another thing, so I plant out my onions. I believe last year I planted them out, what was it, 6 weeks before my average last frost. And that was really, really good for me. And years prior, I planted them out that 4-week range, so 4 weeks out before my last average. And that did really, really well for me. You want to plant them out when it's still kind of cold. You can buy starts quite often, but if you're wanting to start from seed, it might be one of those things that you might want to get on. So I am just gonna go through and seed out all of the soil blocks. I ended up making out 5 trays, which is 180 blocks. So I'm just gonna go with that. There might be a few blocks that I might see twice, and maybe I'll pull those ones apart, but I'm gonna go ahead and plant out all of these seeds. I'm gonna be really curious to see how my planting turns out with really doing them individual like this and not pulling them apart. I'm hoping that will be the one thing that will be a big game changer for me this year. Last year was my first like true successful year, and I did quite a few things different. I will link my video that I made during the summer where I talk about onions, because there's a lot of good information in there when it comes to kind of the timeline of everything I did last year. I'm kind of basing a lot of what I'm doing this year off of what I did last year, because onions are one of those crops for me that I use all of the time, and it was so nice. I finally just had to buy my very first onion from the store the other day, and it got me a little sad, to be honest. I did make a lot of it into onion powder, and I freeze dried a lot of diced onions as well. So I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping this year coming up that I'll be able to get just a little bit more, where I'll be able to maybe get closer to a year's worth. I don't know if I really will be or not at this property. But I should be fairly close next year. Last year, I planted just under 150. That was how many I ended up getting from the garden. And like I said, I'm going to be planting out all 200 seeds today. I have 180 blocks here. So I just got that first one done. I'm just going to lightly put the seeds down, lightly cover them up, and then move on to the next tray. I will start hardening off my seedlings for onions come sometime in February. I really like growing onions because it's one of those things I'm able to get started on during the winter, and some of my other stuff I won't be starting until, gosh, mid-February to mid-March, depending on what it is. There's a lot of stuff I start in March, so I'm not able to start too much right now, but this gets the little itch in me that's really wanting to garden during that winter months. It's just really helpful. I like being able to kind of focus in on those things. If you're starting a garden this year, my biggest advice to you is to try to grow stuff that you already love to eat or use often, so you see the value in what you are growing. Almost forgot. I'm just going to lightly mist the top of these. Since the soil blocks are already so damp, I don't need to like do much, but I will lightly mist these over the next few days. All right. The first seedlings for the 2024 garden are officially planted. And if you're wondering what this is my white sage plant that I grew last year. It's not a perennial here, so I've just been overwintering it, and it's been really thriving lately. Well guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I can't wait to dive deeper into garden plans and everything the 2024 garden. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Happy New Year. I hope you guys had a great holiday season. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.